My name is Heather Archuleta, and I write the Pillownauts blog, which describes all the NASA space simulations in the flight analog programs. Today I'm going to talk a bit about these programs at Johnson Space Center in Texas and how you can actually be a part of them if you apply to NASA. Researchers at the Human Test Subject Facility, or HTSF, are developing methods to reduce the side effects of weightlessness on astronauts. Of course, over the past 5 decades, we've been putting humans in space for, first a few days at a time, then a few weeks at a time, and now in the modern era, people can go to the space station and spend many, many months in microgravity. And very specific changes happen to the human body when you live without gravity. And even as far as we've come, getting to Mars and back would take about 18 months. That's a pretty big jump. So we need to know more about the effects of living in space, including what it'll do to our brains and our bones as we endure it for longer periods. In both the American and Russian space programs, head-down tilted bed rest and water immersion techniques have been used since the late 1950s to simulate changes the human body undergoes when floating through space. Initial space motion sickness is well documented, along with issues with muscle and bone. But thanks to medical advances, we're also taking a much more sophisticated look at heart health, blood pressure, and the vestibular system, which helps the body maintain its sense of balance. So the purpose of the studies is to see how men and women of all different ages react to those physiological changes when they happen. And then in the follow-up phases of the studies, scientists also look at readaptation to normal gravity. In other words, what happens to your body once you come back down to Earth. And of course, all of this has the end goal of developing countermeasures for symptoms and side effects as our voyages into space hopefully become longer and longer. I've personally done a head-down study, a forward lunar gravity study, tilt tests. I've worn compression garments that might be used in future spacesuits. I've spent 50 days in bed, no kidding, and then allowed my bones and joints to be scanned for changes. And the clinicians also use centrifuges, a vertical treadmill where you run literally up the side of a wall, mimicking the actions of the treadmill on the space station. So some of my fellow testers and I have done some pretty goofy things for science, but certainly loved every minute of it. Made some great friends, learned a lot about space science along the way, and a lot about the human body, including what it will truly take to get our species off the Earth and to another planet. And it's going to be no small trick to pull that off and make sure that the travelers are healthy when they reach their destination. You not only have to survive the trip there, but you have to be healthy enough to collect rock samples and conduct experiments and then survive the ride home. So a lot of us get to play fake astronaut on Earth to investigate these things, so that by the time the real astronauts make this kind of journey, we can predict their performance. And most of the questions that I've gotten over the years revolve around these sort of plot points of realism in the simulations. Like, did you really experience what the astronauts experience? Can you actually make money at this, lying in bed or wearing compression stockings? Test clothing for the astronauts, or trying out new exercises or equipment that scientists hope to put on the space station. And yes, you absolutely can. These are very accurate simulations. You'll go through a lot of the same physical and psychological screenings that the astronauts start out with. A lot of the tests that you perform and their side effects are spot on identical. It's a standard $160 per day. And you're paid for however long you're there. You're also paid for screening time, just to try out. You're paid for the physicals, even when you go to Houston. And I remember the first time they paid me to come visit, I thought, well, even if I don't make it, hey, I just got a free trip to Mission Control. So that was fun, too, getting to see all the touristy areas of NASA before I had to go to work. And when I did get into the program, I initially started my blog as a way to track all my tests and progress throughout that first trial. And that turned out to be such fun. I continued through 2 more studies, and I also now use it to encourage other people to apply for the program, because I really, really believe in what they're doing. But to this day, I still get people who email me about it through, blog posts saying, this can't be real. You can just go volunteer for the space program. And so I featured nurses, some of the doctors, a lot of the scientists who developed the protocols, all of the people involved in the bed rest studies, got details about all the different types. I've listed everything needed to go through screening, what kind of tests to expect when you do a full study. It's really grown into a wonderfully detailed resource that I'm so proud of. And the great thing is, I never run out of material. Each year brings new studies and new techniques. The first study I did was 64 days, then another one was 21 days, and another was only a week. So they have a lot of different options, and those change quite frequently as they hunt down certain types of data and explore different reactions. So don't worry if you can't get away from work for 2 months like I did the first time. They have all different kinds of campaigns, and it never hurts to ask if one fits your interests or your schedule. So I invite anyone to come read our Pillownaut stories. My blog follows quite a few people who were willing to speak to news channels and pose for pictures during tests. And one young man even wrote a great journal that he allowed me to publish, discussing all the daily routines in his particular study. That's really helpful for people that want to know what it's really like day to day. And now, more than ever, with the shuttle program coming to a close and the future of manned spaceflight facing budget concerns, we need to support these kinds of programs. I so desperately want humanity to make it to Mars in my lifetime. And when we do finally have the money to go, we need to be ready with all the knowledge and the resources that will make the trip possible. I wanted to be able to say personally that I was part of making that happen. I can say NASA has my data, and every piece of data gets us a centimeter closer. It's all part of this process that is forwarding human exploration. So I'm passionate about these projects. And I know that there are a lot of people out there like me who would want to see what they're made of, to see if they can hack some of the things that our astronauts go through, both the fun parts and the challenging parts. It's our passion for knowing what's out there, our passion for getting ourselves out there. And I also think that's why websites like 365 Days of Astronomy are so important in connecting all of us people, who believe in these greater aims of humankind. And so I thank you for allowing me to share these thoughts with you.